Faith Church, hope you are well. It is a week of Thanksgiving, and certainly pray that it's been a good celebration for you, a time to be grateful for all that the Lord has given to us. It's also Sunday, the beginning of the season of Advent, and this is a really rich time in the church's year. It's actually the beginning of our church year, a time when we enter into a season trying to hold off on Christmas a bit, a season of waiting and preparation, looking forward to the coming of Christ. Certainly we will celebrate in some weeks here the past coming of Christ at Christmas, but Advent is a season for waiting for the return of Christ to come into our world and set things right again. And this message, this reminder is everywhere, even in a book like Joshua. I don't know if you're reading through Joshua with us. I hope you are. Wednesday's reading was from Joshua 21, and I'll be honest, this is a chapter I didn't expect much from. It's a chapter where it kind of goes through this really tedious list of all the land that was allotted to the Levites, one of the tribes in the people of Israel, that Moses had promised to them, and now they're finally in the promised land, and so Joshua is giving them the land, and it reads like out of the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Simeon, they gave the following towns mentioned by name, and then it goes through this list of towns, and it's just verse after verse, and I'm reading it. To be honest, my mind is elsewhere as I'm reading. And then you get to the end of the chapter, and there's this surprising nugget of gold where, after all this list of families and different lands, comes this in verse 43. It says, "Thus the Lord gave to Israel all the land that he swore to their ancestors that he would give them, and having taken possession of it, they settled there. And the Lord gave them rest on every side." If you've read through Joshua, it's a tough book. There's a lot of war, there's a lot of battle, there's a lot of bloodshed, and God gives his people rest on every side. That phrase just struck out to me. How many of you would desire to have from the Lord right now rest on every side? It goes on, "Just as he had sworn to their ancestors, not one of their enemies had withstood them, for the Lord had given all their enemies into their hands." And in this verse, the last one of the chapter, "Not one of all the good promises that the Lord had made to the house of Israel had failed. All came to pass." What a powerful verse. This reminder, and in context, from the time of Moses leading the people out of Israel, these people had been wandering in the desert for 40 years. That's a long time. And after that, it'd been years of God leading them to take possession of the land. And yet, it is proclaimed at this point, it's pointed out to them, look, God has done everything he promised that he would do for you. And that verse prompted me to some reflection that I would invite you into as well, particularly this season of Thanksgiving, moving into the season of Advent, as we think about the promises of God. Advent is a time to remember what God has promised and wait for God to keep those promises. How has God, as we look back, how has God been faithful to you in keeping his promises? Faithful to us, his people, faithful to the world. And what promises are you still waiting for God to fulfill, to keep, that are not yet fulfilled? And do you believe that someday you will be able to say something like this, that we have seen the Lord keep every promise he ever made to us, and even beyond what we would expect? I just would leave you with that opportunity to reflect this weekend, and in some ways prepare yourself for the message on Sunday, when we will speak together about God's promises, and be honest about our frustrations sometimes and the time it takes for those to be realized, and enter into together another season of waiting with hopeful expectation. Really looking forward to a time with you. Hope you will be with us, not just Sunday, but all throughout this season of Advent. And as I mentioned Sunday, I think in both services, prayerfully consider who are some folks around you who are waiting and in need of hope. Invite them to be with us. I think this is a community where we have hope to offer, and we'll do so. Blessings to you today, wherever you are. May you sense the love of God as your Father, the grace of Christ his Son, and the presence, the fellowship, the close fellowship of the Spirit. Peace.